Elena stood on the front porch, her breath turning into white fog in the freezing Christmas morning air. She couldn't believe what was happening. A few minutes ago, she and her grandfather Raymond had been inside, trying to enjoy a quiet holiday. Now her own mother Angela and her siblings were dragging them out of the house like unwanted strangers. Angela's voice cut through the cold like a knife. "He's a burden, Elena. And you chose him over your own family." Elena held Raymond tightly, trying to steady him as he stumbled. He was old, tired, and already shaking from the sudden push outside. Elena's heart broke seeing the confusion on his face. This was his home too. He had lived with them for years. He wasn't a burden. He was the only person who had ever truly cared for her. "Mom, please," Elena begged, her voice trembling. "It's Christmas." But Angela didn't care. Her siblings stood behind her, arms crossed, looking annoyed as if this humiliation was just another chore they had to finish. "Take your grandfather," Angela snapped. "And leave. We're done taking care of him." Before Elena could say another word, the door slammed shut. The loud bang echoed in her chest, like the final break of something she could never repair. Elena stood there in the cold, hugging Raymond as the wind whipped around them. Her eyes burned, but she refused to cry. Not yet. She tried to pretend she was strong enough for both of them. This was the only family she had ever known. Every birthday, every meal, every moment, it was all in that house. And now, in one cruel moment, she was being thrown out like she meant nothing. Raymond looked up at her with sad, tired eyes. His hands were shaking not just from the weather but from something deeper. Years of hurt he had kept hidden. "Elena," he whispered softly. She leaned closer, trying to keep his thin coat closed around him. His voice was weak but steady as he said, "Maybe it's time they finally know who I really am." Elena froze. What did that even mean? She stared at her grandfather, the man she had protected all her life, suddenly realizing he had been protecting something too. Something big. Something her family had no idea about. Elena had always been a hardworking girl. She juggled part-time jobs at a small cafe, a grocery store, and sometimes even did house cleaning just to earn enough money. Most of her time, however, went into caring for her grandfather, Raymond. She cooked for him, helped him take his medicine, took him to the doctor, and stayed awake on nights when his health got worse. She never complained. She loved him, and caring for him felt natural to her. But her family never appreciated her. To them, Elena was always the quiet one, the girl who blended into the background. They often said she would never amount to much, as if her life already had limits before it even began. Her mother, Angela, was the worst. She constantly compared Elena to her successful cousins, those who had big jobs, nice houses, and expensive cars. "Why can't you be more like them?" Angela would say. "They know how to make something of their lives." Elena never answered. She just lowered her eyes and kept working harder, even if no one noticed. When Raymond's health began to decline, the rest of the family didn't want to deal with it. They said they were too busy or didn't have space. So Elena moved in with her grandfather without a second thought. She packed her small bag and went to live with him because she couldn't let him struggle alone. It was supposed to be temporary, but months passed and no one else offered help. Living with Raymond brought Elena peace, but it also added stress. The family blamed her for every small issue. If Raymond missed a doctor's appointment because of weather, they blamed Elena. If he forgot something, they blamed her again. She felt invisible and blamed for things she did everything to prevent. Raymond, despite his weakening health, always tried to make her smile. But even he carried secrets. Elena noticed strange things. He received mysterious letters, always marked private. He kept a small drawer in his room locked at all times. And whenever she tried to talk about money, he quietly changed the subject. She assumed it was pride or embarrassment. She never pushed him. Still, these small secrets built a quiet tension between them, even though neither of them meant for it to happen. As Christmas approached, Elena hoped for one peaceful day. She thought maybe the family would come together, even for a few hours. She had put up simple decorations in the living room and helped Raymond dress nicely. She wanted to believe they could have a warm family moment. But deep inside, she feared disappointment. Her family had never made her feel welcome. She was always the helper, never the daughter they were proud of. And she was right to worry. Instead of a peaceful holiday, Everything fell apart. What was supposed to be a day of love and forgiveness became the moment she and Raymond were thrown out of the house. Christmas morning turned into a nightmare. As she held her grandfather outside in the cold, Elena couldn't stop the painful truth from rising inside her. She had spent her whole life trying to fit into a family that didn't want her. But she didn't yet know that Raymond's secrets, the letters, the locked drawer, the things he never said, would soon change her life forever. Everything they thought they knew about him, and about her, was about to be rewritten. Instead of calling the police or begging the family to let them back inside, Raymond gently touched Elena's arm and said, "We're going somewhere downtown." Elena stared at him, confused. "Grandpa, it's freezing. We need help." But Raymond shook his head. There was a strange determination in his eyes, something she wasn't used to seeing. "Trust me," he said softly. So she helped him into a taxi, wrapped his scarf tighter around him, and they rode through the quiet Christmas morning streets. Elena kept glancing at him, wondering why he wasn't angry or scared. He sat straight, calm, like he had been waiting for this moment. After a long silence, the taxi stopped in front of a tall building with shiny glass doors. Elena looked up and read the sign. "A law office." She frowned. "Grandpa, what are we doing here?" But before she could ask again, the door opened and a woman stepped out. The moment she saw Raymond, her eyes widened. "Mr. Carter, you're here," she said with a warm, respectful smile. Elena blinked. Mr. Carter? They always called him Raymond. And why was this woman speaking to him like he was someone important? Inside the office, it was quiet and professional. Everyone seemed to know Raymond. People stood up to greet him. Someone even offered him a seat right away. Elena felt like she had stepped into another world, one where her grandfather wasn't a burden, but someone respected. A lawyer with gray hair and kind eyes entered the room. He shook Raymond's hand firmly. "We've been waiting for you, sir. The documents are ready. The trustees have been prepared for years." Elena's mouth fell open. Trustees? Documents? Waiting for years? Raymond nodded slowly. "It's time." Then the lawyer turned to Elena and said, "You must be his granddaughter. I'm glad you're here. This concerns you too." Elena felt her heart race. "Me? Why?" The lawyer opened a thick folder. "Mr. Carter, your estate remains unsigned. Your heir must be named." Elena's head spun. "Estate? Heir?" She turned to her grandfather. "Grandpa, what estate?" Raymond took her hand gently. His voice was calm, but filled with old pain. "Elena, there are things I never told you." He took a deep breath. "Long ago, I built a company with my brothers and sister. I created the designs, the patents. But they betrayed me. They stole everything, my work, my name, my place in the company. They pushed me out and made sure the world forgot I ever existed." Elena felt the shock hit her like cold water. Raymond continued, "I left quietly. I rebuilt my life from nothing. I worked in secret. And I became wealthy again. Very wealthy." Elena stared at him, unable to speak. Her quiet, gentle grandfather was a man with a hidden past, a stolen legacy, and a fortune no one knew about. The family that dragged them out of the house had no idea who they had thrown away. And for the first time, Elena realized everything was about to change. As they left the law office and stepped back into the cold air, Raymond began to talk. Really talk, for the first time in Elena's life. His voice was low and heavy, carrying years of pain he had never shared. He told her about the lies, the betrayals, and how his own brothers and sister had forced him to disappear from the company he built. They had taken his ideas, stolen his patents, and used his silence to grow rich while pretending he never existed. Elena listened quietly, her heart breaking with every word. She had always known her grandfather was gentle, but she never knew he carried so much hurt. He had smiled through pain, hidden his past, and lived a simple life even though he had every reason to be bitter. But one question stayed in her mind. "Why didn't you tell me?" she whispered. Raymond looked down, his hands trembling slightly. "I didn't want you to see the ugliness I came from," he said. "I wanted you to have a peaceful life, not one filled with the same pain I suffered." Elena felt tears sting her eyes. She understood his reasons, but she still felt confused. She had lived her whole life thinking they had nothing, when all along, her grandfather had been hiding a truth that could have changed everything. As they walked to the bus stop, Elena's phone started ringing. She ignored it at first, thinking it was one of her part-time jobs. But after the 5th call, she glanced at the screen. It was Angela. Her stomach tightened. How did her mother know they had been at a lawyer's office? Another call came. Then another. From her brother. Then her aunt. Her phone vibrated nonstop. The same people who threw them out that morning were suddenly desperate to talk. Raymond noticed her tense expression. "Let it ring," he murmured. But Angela didn't stop. She sent messages, one after another. "Where are you? What are you doing with Dad? Why were you at a law office? Don't make stupid decisions, Elena. You're being selfish." Elena felt her chest tighten. She had spent her entire life trying to please these people, trying to be the good daughter, the quiet one who never caused problems. And now they wanted answers, not out of love, but out of fear. When she didn't respond, Angela finally sent a voice note. Elena hesitated, then pressed play. Angela's angry voice filled the air. "Elena, pick up the phone. You think taking him to a lawyer will solve anything? You are ruining this family. Don't forget who raised you. Don't forget who gave you a home. If you do anything stupid, don't expect us to help you." Elena felt her throat tighten. Her mother had always used guilt, but this time it cut deeper. She stopped walking and covered her face with her hands. "I can't take this," she whispered. Raymond gently placed a hand on her shoulder. "Elena, you don't owe them anything." She looked at him. This man who had protected her quietly for so long. The only person who stood by her when no one else did. For the first time in her life, Elena didn't break under her family's pressure. She didn't apologize. She didn't run back begging for peace. She turned off her phone. "No more," she said softly. "I choose you, Grandpa. I choose peace. I choose honesty. Not their lies." Raymond's eyes softened with pride. "You're stronger than you think." But their silence didn't last long. When the family realized Elena wasn't answering, their panic turned into anger. Calls turned into threats. Messages became louder, harsher. The same people who kicked them out now wanted control again. And Elena could feel it. The tension was rising, the storm growing, and the truth they were running from was about to explode. Angela and the other relatives stormed into Raymond's temporary apartment, their faces full of anger. "Where are the documents?" Angela demanded. "You went to a lawyer without telling us. We deserve our share." Elena stepped in front of her grandfather. "Stop yelling. You have no right to treat him like this." Angela scoffed. "He owes this family everything. He can't just keep it all for you." The shouting grew louder, and Raymond tried to speak, but suddenly he clutched his chest and collapsed. Elena screamed, calling for help and rushing him to the hospital. Hours later, Raymond woke weakly but determined. He called for one final family meeting in his hospital room. Angela and the others arrived, pretending to be concerned. Raymond signed the inheritance papers in front of everyone, naming Elena as the sole heir. Shock spread across Angela's face. "What? That's impossible." Raymond calmly revealed proof that years ago Angela had tried to forge his signature to access his accounts. The room erupted into chaos as the family turned on each other, arguing and exposing their greed. Elena watched silently, realizing the truth she had suspected all along. The people who claimed to love her and Raymond only wanted his money. For the first time, she saw their real faces, and felt a quiet, powerful sense of justice. Elena focused on healing, not revenge. She knew anger and bitterness would only make her unhappy. Instead, she spent her time caring for herself and her grandfather, helping him adjust to his new life in a better care facility. The facility was comfortable, clean, and safe, with nurses who treated Raymond with respect and kindness. Every day, Elena visited him, bringing little gifts, reading to him, and laughing together like they had never been interrupted by family drama. Her phone still rang sometimes. Angela and other relatives tried to apologize, offering excuses and explanations. But Elena had learned her lesson. She listened politely but firmly. She knew she didn't have to accept their behavior, or let them hurt her again. Boundaries were no longer scary. They were necessary. She didn't owe them anything, and she finally understood that. With part of her inheritance, Elena made plans for her own future. She rented a small, safe apartment where she could finally feel secure. She returned to school, something she had put aside for so long while taking care of her grandfather. Studying again made her feel alive, focused, and proud of herself. Slowly, she began building a life that was stable, independent, and truly her own. Through it all, Elena changed. The quiet girl who had once let the world define her learned to stand up for herself. She discovered she had strength she didn't know existed. She realized that money hadn't made the difference. It was the truth being told, the courage to face it, and the decision to protect herself and her grandfather that changed everything. One evening, after a long day of school and errands, Elena sat beside Raymond in the facility, holding his hand. They smiled at each other quietly. She thought about everything that had happened, the betrayal, the lies, the fear, and she felt a sense of peace. She had survived, and more importantly, she had grown. Elena had learned that life could be painful, but it could also be hers to shape. She had her grandfather, a home of her own, and a future she was building with her own hands. She had found her voice, her courage, and her freedom. Money didn't change us, she whispered softly to Raymond. Telling the truth did. And for the first time, she truly believed it. 1 year later, Elena and Raymond celebrated Christmas together. The room was warm, filled with the soft glow of lights and the smell of cinnamon and pine. Outside, snow fell gently, but inside they felt safe, peaceful, and happy. Elena looked around and thought about everything that had happened. Being dragged out of her family's house had felt like the worst day of her life, but now she understood it was the moment she truly found herself. She had learned to be strong, independent, and brave. Raymond smiled at her and said softly, "Elena, you didn't inherit my money. You inherited my strength." Elena hugged him tightly, feeling the warmth of his love and pride. She whispered to herself, "Sometimes losing your family is the only way to find yourself." And in that quiet moment, she finally felt free. Hey besties, thanks for sticking around till the end. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more stories. See you next time.